Putin may circle Kyiv with tanks, but he'll never gain the hearts and souls of the Iranian people.
That's an absolute howler, isn't it, Joe Siracusa?
Yeah, I don't want to be ageist about this. So look, let's be fair. I've been watching Biden's career all my life. We're about the same age, and he's been a lousy orator all his life. He could have done that 30 or 40 years ago. This isn't about cognitive problems. He just wasn't a great speaker. Now, look, all the sanctions in the world will now put Humpty Dumpty back together again, okay? I've seen sanctions everywhere all my lifetime. You know, I saw them with the after the Cuban Missile Crisis, and couldn't buy anything from Cuba, the United States, though I could buy a cigar at any street corner in Melbourne, I might add. But, you know, the thing is, the sanctions is not a substitute. It's not a deterrent. Nothing deterred Putin. Putin said he had a red line, and America can't absolve itself of the responsibility. This all begins with a debate about what does NATO mean. Putin meant Ukraine was his red line, and we've made it very clear that the NATO countries are our red line. Right now, as far as Putin's concerned, he's in a European war, which could easily slip into a world war. I mean, I think we're about a New York minute from getting in over our heads here, because once the superpowers, and I know people say that Putin's not a superpower, but let me tell you, when the guy across the table from me has 6,000 nuclear weapons, I'm going to listen very carefully to what they have to say.
Well, can I just see
what we can do to get out of this thing.
Can I just pick you up on that? Because earlier you were saying we're talking about Ukraine, but America should be helping them more. But the whole reason they're not helping them more, right, is that nuclear threat. What can you do? You don't want to overplay your hand.
Well, the thing is, yes, you'd like to help them more. But to give Ukraine the impression, right up to the last minute, it might be able to count on Western assistance, I think is cruel and unusual punishment. Actually, it's morally repugnant to let this guy think that there might be some help at the end of the day. He was literally on his own. Look, I know there's a fine line here. I've spent my whole life writing about nuclear weapons. I know exactly what they do, et cetera. And we do have to, sail very carefully through these waters. At the same time, we had a real obligation to explain to Putin over and over again that NATO, while it was a military alliance, did not pose a serious threat. That is, he didn't want NATO in Ukraine, and he didn't want the deployment of first strike weapons. Keep in mind that the Ukrainian border is only 449 kilometers to Moscow. That's 3 minutes flying time with a short-range ballistic missile. He's worried about not waking up at night. And we should have taken that into consideration the same way Jack Kennedy was prepared to turn the world into radioactive dust to get those Soviet missiles out of Cuba.